Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Talking Drum. My name, as you know, is Rachel Onamusi, and today we have a bumper, a firecracker, a hot delight of a topic on the Talking Drum. The studio is already full and we are ready to go. I have to tell you, my heart is thumping. I'm hoping that we're going to be able to keep the peace, but more importantly, I'm hoping that we'll all be able to come up at least with some agreement, with some way forward, a way to respect each other's views and work out what the best thing is for Nigeria, whether or not we agree. So today's show, you might ask, what is all the furore about? What is all the noise about? What exactly are we talking about? Because for those of you who've been following us on social media, you would have seen everything. You would have heard all the comments, everything that we've been talking about, the good, the bad, the ugly. We are going to be talking about the Biafra debate. What happens now? If you remember, a fortnight ago, we talked about Biafra, the origins, what started it, why it started, why it is that we do, why it is that the Igbos want secession, why it is that they wanted to part from us, what happened towards the end, and why do we find ourselves in the place that we are today. Today, we're going to talk about Biafra in 2017, nnamdi-kanu, IPOB. We're going to talk about the sit-at-home protest that happened during Democracy Day. We're going to talk about what exactly is it that the Igbos want. Is it even something that we can give them? Is it something that has been thought through to the point of actually, would this be the worst thing in the world? And how does one go about this politically? How does one say, okay, this is how we go about doing, this is how you go about splitting a country, because countries are not split or joined together on Facebook, as we know, or indeed on radio stations. They are done politically. So therefore, that is what we're going to be talking about today. We have some brilliant minds in the studio today, ladies and gentlemen. We have people that are going to be talking for the Biafra cause, and of course we have people that are going to be speaking against the Biafra cause. If you would like to call in and join us at any time, here are the numbers you need to dial. If you're calling from the UK, please dial 0330 998 1261. If you're calling in from America, please call on 712-770-4032. For those of you calling in from Nigeria, you just need a local landline number, which is 01-440-5024. No matter what country you're calling from, you are going to need the access code, which is 264812. That access code again is 264812. Without further ado, we're going to start bringing people straight into the studio. We're going to start getting voices heard, and we're going to start with the questions straight away, because I have a feeling these 2 hours are going to fly by. We have the regular offenders in the house, the people who are normally on the noisemakers list, starting in no particular order. Inkiruka, how are you, darling?
I'm good. Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening. Good evening.
I nearly bit my tongue just now. It took me a long day today. These 2 hours will make today very long.
Yes.
Welcome everyone. Whoever's on the show, whoever's coming on, we can't wait to hear from you. And wait, please, I need to do a disclaimer on your opening. Yeah. What do the Igbos want? You know they say, what do the Igbos want? Say, what do the Biafran Igbos want?
We have started. We have started. What do the Biafran Igbos want? Okay, so Rachel is also Rachel the hiring and firing director is also in the house with us. Rachel, good evening. How are you?
Can't hear you.
Rachel, your voice is so low, we can barely hear you. Say something, please.
She's speaking, I can hear it.
I can hear that she's speaking. I just can't hear what she's saying. She's dropped out of the. She's left the studio, but she will join us back as soon as possible, just to get her audio sorted out. Let's welcome back ladies first. Buki joined us last fortnight, and she actually wasn't arguing for or against Biafra, but she was arguing about what are the productive steps, what are actually the common sense things that the pro-Biafrans have put in place. It's not enough to just say we want this. What is being done to get your to get what you want, basically, to get your way. What, you know, Rachel brought up, Buki brought up a lot of fantastic comments about things like referendums, exactly how long referendums take, what a party needs to do in order to even host a referendum, a whole bunch of things that perhaps were not being taken into consideration. Buki, welcome, and thank you so much for joining us again.
Hello, Rachel. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Thank you for inviting me back. It's lovely to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you back in the house. Now we have Cheta. Cheta is joining us for the first time. He wasn't here last fortnight. Cheta introduces himself as someone who is ambivalent about Biafra. So this is what he said offline. I guess the way he answers certain questions, what he says next is going to be a fantastic way of knowing exactly where he stands on certain things to do with Biafra and not on others. Cheta, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. I think you're the one I can hear. There's somebody, and I think it's you, Cheta, because your little volume thing keeps going up and down. You have birds singing in the background, and it's actually quite beautiful. I understand you're in Nasarawa State at the moment. I can actually hear the birds tweeting in the background. It's actually really nice. And last but not least, even though I know that we are going to have other people joining us presently, we have Obinna. Obinna joined us last fortnight. He says not particularly pro-Biafra, but he's not particularly looking for a secession, but is certainly thinking that Nigeria requires a restructure. Obinna, am I right in saying this is where you stand? Welcome, and thank you for joining us.
Yes, you're very correct. I believe in alternate destinies. I believe Nigeria is still sellable, but I believe our unity is not sacrosanct.
Okay, okay. Perfect. Thank you so much for joining us. So, I'm not going to go back.
Can I ask a question?
Oh, and so it begins. Cheta, of course. Yes, please.
Yeah, apparently me and Obinna are on the same side. So,
okay.
Why are we here? We'll make the whole thing boring.
No. The more, the merrier. I think it's interesting that because what is a restructure? Out of all the things that I've ever heard, and I started the show last fortnight, and again, I will say the same this fortnight, and I deliberately didn't read up on a lot of stuff to do with Biafra because a lot of stuff is very, very nuanced and very biased. So I thought, okay, let's come on the show and let people who have an opinion state what their opinion is. If there are just no objective textbooks, there are no, this is what happened. You know, this one wrote from Obasanjo's side, this one wrote from Ojukwu's side, this one is this person's friend, and this person told the story from his point of view. So it was only when I started doing this show that I ever even heard of such a thing called a restructure. I don't know what you think a restructure would look like. So this is one of the things that we're going to cover on this show. So we're not going to go back over the first civil war because obviously we covered this 2 weeks ago. Instead, I think I'd like to forge straight ahead, into the Biafra debate as it stands now in 2017. Just before I go forward, we've been joined by one other person. Ekerete joined us last fortnight, and he is, well, he thinks he's anti-Biafra. Let's just put it that way. He is anti-Biafra and doesn't believe in secession or restructure or anything, and doesn't think there is anything happening to the Igbos that isn't happening to the rest of the country that are not Northerners, if I remember Ekerete's standpoint correctly. Ekerete, good evening, and thank you for joining us. Can you hear me okay?
Good evening. I'm happy to be here today again.
Hey, we can hear you better this time.
Yes, we can hear you. Ekerete isn't scratching around in his farm or wherever it is that he was last fortnight. So, let me start with Obinna, please. Obinna, please park aside for 1 second your thoughts on restructuring. What do you think the Biafran debate or the Biafran push is this time around? What is it that those who are pro-Biafrans want? And I'm talking, who is IPOB, MASOB, nnamdi-kanu? What are they fighting for? Not what you want now. What are they fighting for?
I think MASOB and IPOB and Ralph Wazirike and nnamdi-kanu, they represent the extreme, not necessarily illegitimate or illegal. They represent the extreme end of a spectrum, which is disillusioned with the current Nigerian project. Yeah. So these are the people who feel Nigeria has failed irredeemably and basically has no hope of any redemption.
Okay.
And while digging deep, you still have a hope. You would find it difficult to argue with some of the points they have, even though you don't agree with their methods. Nigeria is a 50-year-old, is a almost 60-year-old federation, 50 years old post-Civil War. There's still so many dichotomies and glaring ironies, which we pretend do not exist.
Namely.
So many dichotomies. One, Nigeria is a federation only on paper.
Okay.
Nigeria is a federation only on paper. Nigeria is the only country where so much power is concentrated in the center to the detriment of the state. Someone called it a feeding bottle federalism, and I agree. In a federation, the states are equal to the federal government. The basis, you see, the thing is, sometimes we blame the British for amalgamating Nigeria, blah, 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 mistake of 1914 and all that. But if you go down history, you'll find out that the British actually talked more to Nigerians than we talk to ourselves. They formed the correct basis of formulating a nation. They spoke to people at community level, spoke to people at village level, spoke to people at regional level before coming to the federal level. That's what was now enacted as the Littleton Constitution. All these things were stepwise. It was built from the bottom up. Now, I keep saying that we don't know what we threw away in 1966. What we had was a federation that was functioning from the bottom up. And what it needed was fine-tuning. And it was working, because why am I saying it was working? We had east, west, north. Through democratic means, we then had the Midwest. Then the military came and they took everything away. Before you know what was happening, the derivation was 50%. 50% going to the region, 20% to the common port. I can't really remember again, but I definitely know 50% went to the region. 20% went for redistributable, this kind of equalization, areas that need more development and blah, blah, blah. And I think that was 30%, and 20% went to the federal government. Now, the military came, and at certain point, they kept on tinkering with this thing. At certain points in the history of our military governance, states were actually receiving as little as 1%. With the federal government appropriating everything else. Now we are at 13%. That is just looking at it from the fiscal side. Now, if you go to issues like the structure, federal government has so many responsibilities that can be diverted to the state. If you look at Lagos State, you find out that Lagos State governor and the Minister of Works, for every regime, there has always been a fight regarding road maintenance. There has always been a fight regarding road maintenance. They fight, and yet the road is not maintained. Apapa Seaport, the road located in Lagos, is being closed down because the federal government in Abuja, hundreds of kilometers away, insists that it's in the exclusive list. The road leading to the Mauritania Mohammed International Airport. So just recently, that permission was given to Lagos State to resurface that road. You see, when people say restructure, the people think it's an excuse for balkanization. Nigeria is sick. when you say Federal Republic of Nigeria, the name is as ironical as saying People's Democratic Republic of North Korea. North Korea is anything but democratic. Nigeria is anything but federal. Right now, as we speak, I think federal government takes about 52% of all allocations.
Okay, so let me just be sure that I understood you, because I came to the table thinking that a lot of the pro-Biafran arguments or the problem they had with the Federal Republic of Nigeria was that the Igbos were being unfairly treated, or they were not getting their fair share of the national pie. What you seem to be saying now is the whole thing is sick and we don't want any part of it. That's what you're saying, not that Igbos are being marginalized in any way.
It's a two-pronged argument. You see, when I was trying to say something that last week, I was cut short. It's a two-pronged argument. Number one, the system is sick. Yeah? Mm-hmm. The system is sick. And two, the Igbos feel particularly marginalized.
Why?
Yeah. Why I would say that because now if you see the sick federalism, the worst hit is the South. The South produces, it is redistributed, and the North takes part of that redistribution. Mm-hmm. Now, this thing tends to hit the region with various intensities. The Niger Delta is worst hit. And look, believe me, you might say, yeah, the Niger Delta probably does not want anything to have with Biafra. But if they had a say, they would probably go on their own. But this time the debate is about Biafra, isn't it?
The debate is about the Biafra, because we have a conversation about Niger Delta last week, and we will still have that conversation again this week. Just 1 minute, please, Obina. Buki, I'd like you to come in at this point because you have something to say.
I was going to say that Nigerians tend to have this either or, in my opinion. We tend to swing from one extreme to the other.
Yeah.
We never actually try to solve a problem so a patient has cancer. Instead of treating the cancer, you go, cancer of the breast. You go, what they really need is, brain cancer treatment. And you're thinking, why don't you treat the cancer of the breast first?
Which is what the person has.
If that doesn't work, and then we now see the cancer has spread, let us now see if they have brain tumors. Have we actually ever wondered why this so-called Nigeria as a federal system doesn't work? It doesn't work. It's not because the federal government is taking everything. It's because Nigeria is corrupt. If every state at this moment in time is getting enough to get by, if every state with a visionary governor can become wealthy and self-supporting, every state can do more than just its allocations. Because the federal government isn't saying, and nobody is saying, the allocations are all that you need. Look at what Lagos State has done. Lagos State no longer needs its allocations from the FG. Lagos State has found a way to become self-supporting. I am not saying that all the states
can do that
in Lagos State position. But say Lagos State has done 200%. There are states that can do 50%. They're not. They're doing 2%. They're not doing anything at all. State governors are being, excuse me, Obina, please, if you don't mind. They're being bailed out. They are getting money from this. They're getting money from that. We don't ask them what they are doing with the money. They are frittering it away. Why do we think that if we go for whatever you want to call it, restructuring, devolution, home rule, etc., it's going to be different. It's going to be the same politicians. I love the way people say, oh, people will object more because it is the money, they can see the money is coming from them. It's a lie. Nigerians will not object anything. Nigerians will, the same governors who play the ethnic tribal rule will do it again. I can imagine that if it was Yoruba land that now became had home rule, you will come across the people from Ogun State saying they're marginalized, the people from Oyo State saying Lagos State is not giving them their own. Until we solve the problem, which is the people are not putting pressure on their rulers. There is no rule of law.
There's none.
People in check. People do not believe they can put pressure on their rulers. There is no civil society that can actually call governors to order. State houses of assembly are stamping houses. You know, they basically just stamp whatever the governor wants. Until we solve that, we will restructure and we will be back here saying exactly the same thing.
All right.
Thank you.
Are you done?
Sorry, who's speaking just there?
It's Obina.
Obina, give me just 1 minute, please. I would like to introduce one other person who's just joined us. She was specially requested to join us. Grace Nkwamalgo, I apologize. Did I say your surname correctly? Grace, good evening.
Sorry?
Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Hi, Grace. Grace is joining us. She is pro-Biafra, and she has had a lot of articulate write-ups on her wall on other platforms that I've seen her write, and that's why I introduced, I specifically asked her to join us. So Grace is going to be joining us. Grace, I can hear you, but it's a little bit fuzzy, but just stay on the line, just join us. And of course, if you do need to speak, I'll make sure the floor is quiet. So I just wanted to introduce you and thank you so much for joining us. Now, Obina, you were going to respond to what Buki said.
Yes, I'm going to respond.
Before Obina responds, can I?
Why can't I see when people are talking? Who is that speaking? Sorry, who?
I've sat quietly. I've sat quietly for 20 minutes.
Yes, please. Mm-hmm.
I've sat quietly for 20 minutes. Obina, but let me speak because in about 40 minutes, I do have to leave.
Yes.
Now, Obina is right on so many things, but he misplaced some of his timestamps. It's important to point out that even though Nigeria was a federal republic in the 1960s, that a true federal republic with power devolved to the regions, there was at the regional level, there was a very hefty bend. So, for example, in the northern region, you had the Tiv riots, when the Tiv and the minorities in the north wanted to have their own state created, following the creation of the Midwest out of the western region. Then the coup happened. The coup was a response to corruption. And it's important to note, Buki, that corruption has been something we have been talking about in Nigeria since the 1940s.
I know.
Yeah, so the coup, January 15, 1966, was a response to the whole corruption thing. And following the January 66 coup, Agu Ironsi, who was the head of state at the time, enacted Decree 34, which unified Nigeria, the unitary decree. That is where the problem started from. Now, when the return march thing happened July 29, 1966, and there was a lot of killings of Igbos, but I'm sorry, you said you don't want us to go through this history. It's just that it is important.
Sure.
We were on a war footing. From 66 to 70, we were on a war footing, and it was in 68, in response to Biafra, as part of the Nigerian blockade of Biafra, that the military government of Gowon nationalized everything. So prior to that, there was a revenue share of Nigeria's resources. This nationalization was encoded in law in 1977's Aboyade Commission. And it was from that moment that every revenue went to the FG, and we have been back where we have been...
fighting ever since.
fighting ever since.
Simple as ABC.
Now, it is important to point out the structure of the current Biafra agitations. Okay. Now, as Obina said, Wazirike, nnamdi-kanu are at an extreme end of a spectrum. That's a fact. It's important to differentiate because nnamdi-kanu is even more extreme than Wazirike. Remember that Wazirike's Masob was formed in 1999 and devoted itself publicly, at least, to pursuing the actualization of Biafra through peaceful means. That was stated in their charter. However, it's also important to point out that as time went on and they received heavy-handed treatment from first the government of Obasanjo and then the government of Yar'Adua. Okay, the government of Yar'Adua eventually released him. You had other people who were saying that Wazirike's methods were too benign. So you had the BZF, which was formed out, which splintered out of Masob. The BZF, if you remember, was responsible for the attack on the government house of Enugu in 2014. So this is basically nnamdi-kanu and IPOB is a culmination of the fact that first, Nigeria by default does not know how to negotiate with people with dissenting opinions. Okay. Dissenting opinions are natural in a democracy. Number two, for the record, I think I need to state what I do for a living. I am the head of research at the Political Economy Risk Consultancy called SBM Intelligence. And we have done quite a number of surveys. And what the data available to us shows is that the Biafra agitation and most of the discontent in Nigeria are decidedly economic in nature.
Okay.
It's important to point that out.
As simple as that.
So,
as simple. Thank you.
Yeah. So if we manage to get the economy running, so for example,
sorry, Chetak, go ahead. Chetak, please continue.
Yeah. There was a video that came out that emerged of thousands of young people gathered in nnamdi-kanu's house in Umuahia, chanting, "We want Biafra, we want Biafra." What people do not know is that these youths were bussed there. They didn't go there of their own free will. Somebody paid for transportation. Somebody paid them stipends and all of that. A manifestation of the fact that unemployment rates in Nigeria, youth unemployment rates, unemployment of people between the ages of 18 and 34 is over 50%.
That's right.
You will, if these people had something doing, you wouldn't see them there. Now, there was an experience I had. In the United States once, in Louisiana. There's a man was arguing with me that Louisiana would do better if it's not a part of the U.S. Now, note this argument, this discussion happened in 2015, exactly 150 years after the American Civil War ended. Louisiana was one of the states that seceded from the U.S. in 1861. In 2015, 150 years later, somebody still feels that they will be better off on their own.
Yes.
You will always have agitations.
That's
it is
right.
natural. It's human. So the question is, if Nigeria were a country to be proud of, and let us be honest, Nigeria is not a country to be proud of right now. If Nigeria were a country to be proud of, then you will find that a lot of the pro-Biafra agitators will be pushed to the fringes. Because what do human beings want? Human beings want to be able to feed, clothe themselves, provide themselves shelter. Nigeria cannot guarantee these things for the vast majority of the population. So when you have such a situation, many people will turn to whoever comes promising them. And I'll give an example. Germany, defeated in World War I, 1918. By 1929, the German economy had collapsed totally. The price of a loaf of bread was 1,000,000 marks. I'm telling you the facts. These are things that you can cross-check. 1,000,000 marks was what would buy you.
You need a wheelbarrow of money to buy bread. Wheelbarrow of money.
Exactly.
Yes.
So a man came and he promised the German people Arbeit and Brot. That's work and bread.
Yes.
Follow me, I will give you work and I will give you food. And they followed him. His name was Adolf Hitler. We know what happened next. When you do not take care of your economy, which is something Nigeria has spectacularly failed to do, then people will listen. So it is a shock to me that people are shocked that this is happening.
No, I don't think people are shocked. I think what normally what we find, for those of us, okay. So let me speak for myself. I don't think I personally am shocked. Sorry, just 1 minute, please, Obinna. I think what I feel is more, I've never heard anyone break it down the way you just did. And there's nothing, everything you said I agree with, which is every single time I listen to people, pro-Biafra people, when we say, okay, so why do you want to go on your own? And people say, oh, because the Igbos are marginalized and the Igbos aren't treated fairly. And see, they share the money between themselves in the north, and they share the money to their friends in Yoruba land and everything.
Can I butt in here?
Sure, please do.
I have been to every state. I've been to every state in Nigeria minus Taraba states. So I can tell you, without any equivocation, every single person in Nigeria is marginalized, except if you're a member of the elite, and except if you stay in the high-flying zones of Abuja and possibly Lagos. However, it is important that we bring out something here. I am sure we all know the story of the 6 men and the elephants. 6 men giving an elephant, 6 blind men giving an elephant to look at and describe how it feels. Each of them could come up, and they ended up fighting because each of them could only come up with the way the thing looked from their perspective. Yes. One was convinced that it was like a pipe. One was convinced it was like a wall. One was convinced it was like a tree trunk. One was convinced it was like a rope. Because they were touching different parts of the elephant. That is what is happening in Nigeria. That is what is happening in Nigeria. So many people are looking at things entirely from their own world view.
Absolutely.
And that is the problem.
Absolutely.
Now, regarding the workability of the Biafra project, the fact of the matter is that, and this is advice I would give to Gloria, who just joined us.
Grace, the lady is Grace.
Grace, yeah. Mm-hmm. They haven't, the pro-Biafra agitators have not started the first real steps to forming a sustainable entity. One of the reasons the first Biafra failed was because nnamdi-Igbo, of whom I'm part of, did not carry the minorities in the region along.
Thank you.
That problem is still there. You are calling for self-determination. The truth of the matter is that the current setup of Masob, IPOB, whatever, if they have the Biafra they are agitating for, the southern minorities will simply be replacing what they call northern domination for Igbo domination. There's a reason why southern Cameroons opted to leave Nigeria in 1961 in the plebiscite. They complained of Igbo domination. Yep. Southern Cameroons was a part of the eastern region. They voted to leave Nigeria. They defied Mike Enderley because if we go back to 1956, when there was the Western House of Parliament and Azikiwe defeated Obafemi Awolowo in the Western House of Parliament. Rather than Azikiwe fighting for his position when Awolowo used the ethnic thing to edge him out, he went back to the Eastern region and did the same thing Awolowo did to him to Eyo Ita and Michael Enderley. 5 years later, Michael Enderley's people from Southern Cameroon had the option of leaving, and they took it. So these are historical lessons we need to learn from. These are things that are likely to happen. I mean, look at what is happening in Ahira Diocese, Ahira Catholic Diocese. The Bishop of Paleke, who was appointed as Catholic Bishop of Ahira, has been refused for 5 years now, has been refused entry into his diocese by priests from Umbeise and Ahira because he's not one of them. He's from Ihiala, which is just a walking distance from Ahira. But because Anambra State, I even Imo State, then we have a problem suddenly. Do you think you can come together to form a country? Those are the first steps. Number 2, Igbo land is landlocked. We do not have access to the sea. How are we going to negotiate deals to guarantee that access? Because if we don't have access to the sea, that will be economic suicide. I don't want to be part of
with that anyway.
Well, I don't want to be part of a country that is like Lesotho.
No. Let me just confirm one or two things to those joining us. Grace, you will have a chance to speak, as will you, Obinna. I really want Cheta to get everything off his chest. I'm learning my heart is pounding a million miles per hour, but I also understand that we only have Cheta's company for an hour. So there's lots of questions coming out of this.
Less than now, because the people are supposed to meet have just come.
Yes, so as soon as
I'm supposed to have a meeting and they've just showed up.
I really do want you to just educate us, and then if you need to leave, thank you so very much for your time, and then we will talk to the rest of the people. But I'm very interested in what you have to say, and I'm grateful to you for coming on board. So please go ahead.
Now like I said, because of the nature of what I do, I spend a lot of time staring at maps. I spend a lot of time doing economic models and political models. We have quite a number of problems which we need to seriously consider before we go that route. Second problem, if you take Eastern Igbo land, that's the Anambra, Ebonyi, Enugu, Imo, and Abia states, it's 29,000 square kilometers in area. If you include the Anioma part of Delta states, it's 40,000 square kilometers. So the entirety of Igbo land is 40,000 square kilometers in area. What's the area of Borno states?
It's something thousand.
No. The biggest is 976.
I was going to say with
Borno state is Borno state is 90,000 square kilometers.
It's 92,000 square kilometers. If you take into account
Borno
water,
state,
everything. Yep.
Yeah, Borno state is almost 3 times as large as the entirety of Igbo land, including Western Igbo lands from Asaba to Abo. Now, what's the population of Borno State? 4 million. You have 4 million people with that land to play with. How many Igbo people are there? At the very least, we're 18 million. At the very least, official figures. Official figures in Nigeria are always disputed, but let's go with that. So immediately, if you create this country, immediately we'll have one of the highest population densities in the world. Do you want to be from a country like Gaza?
Landlocked with enemies on every side.
These are the practical questions that need to be asked. I'm not saying don't do it, because sacrosanct to every human being is the right to self-determination, which is why I said I am ambivalent. I'm not saying do not do it. All I'm saying is before you do it, make sure you have every I crossed and every T dotted, or the other way around.
Otherwise, what? So if you're someone who follows trends, you follow patterns throughout history and political, economic patterns, what do you think is the worst case scenario that could happen? So if you look at a situation like Gaza, you're talking about landlocked, if they got secession, so everything went according to what Kanu wanted, and they got their land and all of, they've got this 40,000 square foot, and they got their land and they've got their own entity.
If everything happens, if the entity is achieved right now based on current realities, then in 5 years we'll have a South Sudan scenario. That's the fact.
I agree.
All right.
Which is something Buki said. Yes.
Can I say something? Yeah. Are you done?
Yes, I am done, and I am so sorry that I really have to leave now. Because I have a meeting, and the people who I'm meeting have just showed up, so I have to go.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I will take Cheta's views, which are more fresh, before I take that of is it Bumi?
Buki.
Sorry.
We have Buki. Yes.
Yeah, there were things Cheta said that I don't necessarily agree with. I don't know if he meant size-wise, but if he did, I don't think Biafra will be the size of Gaza. Biafra is certainly going to be small. It's certainly going to be one of the more densely populated areas, but it's definitely not going to be Gaza.
No. The
I
comparison
think
to Gaza was based on being landlocked and surrounded on almost every side by enemies. That's what he was trying to say, and almost being
and also having a high density. He wasn't.
Yes.
It wasn't.
Okay, then that's fine.
Then
that's fine.
It wasn't a
then
like
two.
for like comparison.
Then two. You see, the South Sudan scenario is overflowed. Now, I'll break that down. South Sudan definitely snowballed into a civil war after they broke out from Sudan. South Sudan is one example out of several. I have used the countries in Bosnia, Serbia, Kosovo.
No,
I've used Singapore.
I was going to say use Africa.
Why do we have to use?
No.
Why do we have to use Africa?
Do you know why? Do you know why we should use Africa? Because a number of these other countries, are slightly more quote unquote civilized when it comes to dealing with their tribal wickedness and hatred for each other.
No, I don't agree. Yugoslavia.
Let me wait. I don't want us to get into an art. This is going down the route of what happened last week, and I want us to get back on track. He wasn't. That is his opinion. I said to him, you are someone who studies patterns, historical patterns, geographical patterns, political, economic patterns, based on what you have seen happen time and time again, according to your research, because he introduced what he does for a living. What do you think would happen to Biafra if they actually got what and he said his own. That is his own.
Hello, please, can I say something here?
Yes, please do.
Can I finish my point, please?
No, but why are you making that point? Because you're using Bosnia and all that. I quickly just googled the map of Bosnia as
the balkanization of Yugoslavia was preceded by a genocide, which is even worse than what happened in South Sudan. But the nations are actually countries.
But the examples you're using are not right. The examples you're using are not right. I'm looking at the map of Bosnia. Bosnia has access to the sea. All right, Sarajevo has access to the sea. I'm looking at the map right now. They have a little inlet that gives them access to the sea. The landlocked Biafra will not. That's the problem South Sudan has.
No, we are comparing the potential for conflict. That's what
we're telling you that being landlocked. You see, when we come up and tell you is it the Gaza Strip? Gaza Strip has been landlocked. Gaza Strip technically is not landlocked. They just don't have control.
Which means the example is even wrong because
hold up. They're not exactly landlocked.
Everybody is allowed to talk, but I'm the only one who is being interrupted.
This is the first time I'm talking, all right? But I don't want you to give and basically state certain things and then tell us that they're facts. They're not facts. All right?
Then counter it after I have finished.
Okay, all right, fine. Yeah, no, that's not too much. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, so like I was saying, there are many other examples. There are many other examples of countries that are doing well. I gave an example of Rwanda, a landlocked country that is one of the fastest growing economies in Africa. Landlocked is a disadvantage. Nobody is arguing that. But it's not a death sentence. Right? It's not a death sentence. Now, having said that, I'll go down to what because to be honest, I'm more restructuring than secession. I'll go down to what Buki said. She talked about Lagos. You see, the thing is this. In economics, there's a concept of comparative cost advantage. Right?
Yes.
Doesn't mean that 36 states in Nigeria can challenge themselves to do certain things and prosper is making the case oversimplistic. Because right now, as we speak, as currently structured, some of those states are just not viable. Now, comparative cost advantage. Some of those 36 states in Nigeria can tap onto that comparative cost advantage much more easily than some other states. Lagos comes as a moot point. One, Lagos is small. Believe me, whether you like it or not, within the context of the current Nigeria, being small is actually an advantage. Two, Lagos was the federal capital for almost 1960 to 1991. For almost 30 years. The infrastructure is still, they have that infrastructural advantage, infrastructural head start.
I'm not disagreeing, and I pretty much said that. I said Lagos. I'm not expecting all the other states to become Lagos states. I said if Lagos is operating at 200%, there might be states that will operate at 20%. But we don't even see those states operating at that 20%.
I'm coming.
Let me finish. No percent.
Let me finish. I'm going to give you all the advantages Lagos has. 3, Lagos, the two primary seaports in Nigeria are situated in Tinkan Island and Apapa. You understand? So it is it is not as difficult for a Lagos governor to do something than for a governor in, let's say, Yobe State.
Yes, but let us also admit that there was a time.
I'm trying to arrive at somewhere.
There was a time when Lagos State
let me finish now. Let me finish. And I finish. There is this thing about every Lagos State governor being a performer.
Not true.
Every Lagos State governor,
okay, let him finish, please. Continue.
Virtually every Lagos State governor has been a performer apart from Oyinlola. Virtually every Lagos State governor, from Jakonde to Ohai Maikakibe to Buba Marwa to Tinubu to Fashola to Ambode. You understand? There is what you call threshold. When you have threshold in income, it will be easy to do something. Now, what are we talking about? Some states are finding it difficult to come above water. I am not saying that there is no corruption. There is corruption everywhere. But you see, when you talk about national existence, there is good governance, one, and then there is structure. Nigeria is not doing well on both sides. There is good governance and there is structure. If we end up killing corruption or minimizing corruption, we will get to a stage where we find out that, oh boy, federal government seems to have a lot of responsibilities. Let us devolve. It is one way or the other. If we devolve, what's it called? If we devolve, we'll get to find out that, oh, this corruption that is happening, oh boy, we have localized it. But what am I saying? What I'm saying is that by the time powers devolve, the knot of malgovernance will be easier to untie. The knot of malgovernance will be easier to untie.
That is untrue. Right now, you have Rochas, you have governors in the East who are still robbing their own people blind. And the knots can be untied very easily. I do understand. You're not the only person here who's articulating. I understand. But it is... No, that is not true. What you are saying is everything is the federal's fault. Once you let us free, everything will be fine. We'll untangle the corruption. We'll fix everything. And that is just not the case.
Do you think money is not being stolen in
Lagos?
But
you just said Lagos governors perform. That's what you said. You said Lagos governors perform.
That's what I'm trying to tell you. That's what I'm trying to tell you. That's why I said every governor has been an auction governor because they have a lot to play with. They have a lot. The governor of Imo State, the governor of Enugu State, if he steals as much as 30 million naira, he's gone. A governor in Lagos State can afford to steal 200 million and still dazzle.
So you may very well need to speak. You may very well need to speak to your governors then to only be as corrupt as their national court lets them. Ekerete, please give me 1 minute. Ekerete, I understand you've been waiting. I really need to bring Grace on. Ekerete, you joined us last fortnight, so you know how this, tempers get heated and all of that. Grace, thank you for your patience. You've been waiting now for about half an hour. Thank you for joining us. I feel I need to bring this back to what we were talking about. The initial question, which was this Biafra agitation today. I don't want to hear about the Ojukwu, blah, 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 because obviously we discussed that last fortnight. This Biafra agitation today, what is it that the pro-Biafrans want? And if they get it, do you think Biafra, the way Kanu wants it and the way IPOP wants it today, do you think it is something that can stand, that can work? Grace, please go ahead. Good evening. Hi, Grace, can you hear us? Oh, I think we've been chatting, trying to bring her into the studio. We've been having some technical difficulties. I just hope. Grace, can you hear us? Okay, I'm gonna try and reach out. Okay, yeah, she's exited the studio. She'll try and bring herself back in so that we can proceed. We asked her to join us because she's very she is pro Biafra, and I would be very interested in her thoughts. Ekerete, at this point, I know you've been waiting. Thank you so much. You've been on hold for 40 minutes and you haven't been able to speak. I think you have some points that you would like to rebut some of Obinna's points. If you'd like to come in at this point, please.
Obinna mentioned two things, very important things: good governance and structure. And I find that he easily, runs away from having to call responsibility and then comes up with so many excuses for the rubbish that we see happening in the Southeast. And let's just say every other state apart from Lagos State, it seems Lagos State is like the gold standard. Yes. So, yeah, that is what we keep seeing. And Bumi had mentioned, I think that's her name.
Bookie. Not Bookie, please.
Everyone keeps calling her Bumi.
Okay, Bookie, I'm sorry.
Sorry, go on.
Right? So now the problem, what we find, because Biafra is agitating for something. I mean, the Igbos are agitating for something because they feel like they are not getting what they ordinarily were expecting to get or are supposed to get, whatever that means. Today, someone shared the budget percentage, and it looks very unfair. The Southeast was, I think, 21 billion or so, while the North was about 92 billion.
Ekerete, I'm going to need you to speak right into your phone.
We can't hear you.
We can't hear you, Ekerete.
I'm sorry.
There you go. Yeah, do exactly what you're doing right now. Continue.
Yeah, I'm actually not doing anything. I'm reading off, some things. Now, a Lagos State governor can steal, a Lagos State administrator, for example, can steal 30 million naira. And, well, they can afford to steal 30 million naira, according to Obinna. While a governor from, say, Imo State, an administrator from, say, Imo State, cannot steal 30 million naira without there being, that
glaring. Yeah, there will be a glaring deficit.
So the question becomes, you see, this is where I have a problem. The question becomes, why must the Imo State governor choose to steal 30 million naira? Why must they even want to steal anything at all? Now, yes, corruption exists, but why can't we call these people to order? Now, I'm going to say something here that you may not have heard before. I'm from Akwa Ibom State, and 2011, my state governor, very, very outgoing man, proposed a CCTV for the entire state. Okay, and so there was this call for proposals, and I assembled my crew. I'm a medical doctor by profession, but I'm also into information technology and everything related to information technology. So we came up with your proposal, petition, blah, blah. I think we had one of the best proposals for the state. Now, our cost estimate was just over 700 million naira. Now, we took it up, they went through it and all that, and they were like, okay, beautiful, wow, this looks different from what we were seeing. Okay, but you people will have to work on this, your price.
Figure.
This money is too low. This money is too low. You have to increase it. And there we were looking at, okay, so how much do we increase it to? The man answered, we're going to take it to 2.7 billion naira. I didn't like the sound of that. And I was like, okay, sorry. Why I thought it being cheaper should,
would appeal to you. Yeah.
You have to just get it. I said, okay, well, that the best they can do for us, take it to 2.3 billion naira. And after all, that what they're even proposing to us should would allow for us to even earn more. Now, personally, I didn't like the idea. I'm not so much about money as I am against a name and just getting to do something. And so I told my crew, well, yeah, I'm not going to be part of this. If they decide to be a part of it, no problem. If they decide to be a part of it and then want to bring me in, I'm going to charge them a consultation fee. I'm going to work with them as a consultant. I'm not going to be part of this thing per se. Right? Now, case in point. Anyways, the project is dead. Okay, the governor actually approved 2.3 billion naira for the project, but there is no single camera in Akwa Ibom State. The money is Now this is the problem. Okay, it's not like, for example, Akwa Ibom State didn't have or doesn't have sufficient money to do some of these things. But you see, there is a mindset that people are carrying around. The mindset that I should also take money that
my own share.
I should steal. Okay, now, this is where also I have a problem with Biafra. Now, nobody in the region of Biafra is holding their senators, their House of Reps to order, calling them to order, asking them, sorry, please, are you representing us or are you representing your pocket? If indeed there is marginalization, how come our senators, South, Southeast, are not talking about it? How come our senators are not really fighting for these things?
Because I assume you have Igbo senators in the House of Reps, do you not? I assume all the governors are invited to Abuja every month or however often they meet to discuss certain things. Can we go back to brass tacks? Unfortunately, we don't have Grace in the House. Let's talk about what Cheta said. When Cheta said, a lot of the problems Biafra is fighting for, or a lot of the people who believe in Biafra, a lot of the people who are supporting the cause, it is an economic problem. Just 1 minute, please. So, do we all agree with that? Buki, do you agree with that?
Of course it's an economic problem.
Obinna, do you agree with that?
I do, of course.
So if that is the case,
very much that it's overwhelmingly an economic problem.
So let me take this thought to the logical conclusion that I have. If I know that now hungry they beat all these people, if we could show, I would have thought what the leaders will try to do is to show them a way out, to say this is what a well-run state could be like. All the problems we have is because the federal government is marginalizing us. Even with the small money we have, don't you see how lovely we're making everything? Don't you see all your bills being paid? Don't you see how lovely your cities look? How lovely your towns look? So if you are still saying, we can't steal as much as Lagos governors can steal, there is nothing if we are all saying that it is an economic problem.
Hello. This will be a rare occurrence. This is going to be a rare occurrence. I will come to Obina's defense on that. I don't think he was saying.
He wasn't saying that. Nobody was saying that.
I'm just saying there is no model. There is no model. If everybody in this room is in agreement that it is an economic problem, Biafra has not provided a viable solution to that economic problem.
Can I clarify one thing first?
Please do.
In a few seconds. Can I clarify one thing?
Please
now,
do.
See, when I say someone steals 200 million and still able to perform, and someone steals 30 million and everybody notices, I am not justifying stealing.
I understand.
We should hold Southeastern, we should hold everybody to account. What I'm trying to say is this. Because of the structure of the country, Lagos is a case of a one-eyed man who is king in the land of the blind.
I understand.
Why am I saying this? There are certain things. Look, in a well-structured federation, Lagos should be achieving 4 times what we are currently praising them for. Let me give you a simple example. Do you know that when you build a power plant, when you build a power plant, right? If you build a power plant of say 1,000 megawatts, right? Do you know that you cannot transmit it as a state. Do you know that the federal government transmits it for you and decides how much you get?
Thank you.
I know that.
You are actually answering my question. This is what I am trying to say. Perhaps I am not articulating myself properly.
If a state like Lagos has been allowed to build and generate and distribute its own power, do you know that Lagos State by now should be providing 24-hour power supply in the state?
Beautiful.
That is the structure I'm talking about.
I say you are answering. You are actually following my train of thought. If a state like Lagos were to turn around and say, do you know what? We want to stand on our own. We're producing this much power, but we're having to share it with the rest of the federation. We're doing this much, but we're having to share it with the rest of the federation. We produce this much in resources. We have to share it with the rest of the federation. People who live and work in Lagos State might actually support that plan. Like Emma Gbamike, of course. Why would I even want to carry the rest of the country? We are already doing so fantastically on our own. It is the federal government that is our problem. Yes, we don't want to carry the rest of the nation anymore. We want to step aside on our own. I'm actually agreeing with you that Lagos could do better. So if an Ambode was to go to Lagos people and say, let us stand, but there is nothing happening in the eastern states that would inspire anyone to support me. There is nothing the governors, I'm saying, this is what I'm saying. There is nothing the governors are doing that's making one say, it's true. The only problem the East has is the Federal Republic of Nigeria. If we left them to stand on their own, they would actually be so much better. It's true, because they're the ones who produce this. Every governor in the East is owing salary. Buki is my go-to statistician in these things of salary owing. Everyone is owing money.
Almost every state governor is owing salary.
Thank you.
Okay,
so
you see?
if a Lagos state wanted to stand on its own, I would even understand that. There is no knight on a white charger that is leading the Biafran cause that makes it appealing. There is nobody that's saying, oh, on this we agree with you. Where's the model?
Every state could do better.
Thank you.
And I would say that instead of us spending time, you see, we are frittering away a lot of our lives as Nigerians, talking about the problem instead of doing something about the problem. Every single state could do better. And you know, the only people who are going to put pressure on those states to do better are people from the state. If instead of all this Biafra, no Biafra, we hate Biafra, we love Biafra. If each of us was spending that time yelling and screaming at our own state governor, we were marching, we were fighting, we were telling them we will recall you, we will not vote you, we will run candidates against you, our state governors will do better. The one thing that we do not realize, or we do not seem to understand,
we do know the strength of our power.
We do not know the strength of our unity. I am telling you that if one Nigerian state, if the citizens in that state shut it down for a week, refuse to go to work, were marching and demonstrating on the streets, the governor will come to his senses. And his fellow governors will look around and go, before they bring this to my state, let me start doing something. There are two tribes in Nigeria.
He won't even need to say before they bring it to my state. Because after day 3, we all got together, the whole lot of Nigerians got together and did Hallelujah Challenge. They know how to do that. Let's talk to somebody who doesn't talk back. Let's talk to somebody who doesn't hold our sacks of rice and is not the person that's going to give us an extra sack of rice, after 4 years. We've been joined in the house by someone else. Let me bring this person. I'm hoping it's Grace, or it might be someone else who might want to join to this conversation. Telephone number ending 5954. Caller, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Yes.
Grace, thank you for trying again. Oh, she sounds so meek and timid. I'm sorry, your other number we couldn't hear you on the other number. Can you hear me clearly, Grace?
Well, not very clearly, but I can speak to people.
But I can hear you, so if I need to amplify what you're saying to the...
Sounds like a child.
Okay, to you two, you sound like a small boy sometimes. Leave it. So thank you so much for trying on another number.
Small boy now, that one.
Thank you so much for trying. I'm still wanting an answer from the pro-Biafrans. Who's this? Someone's phone is ringing. What do the pro-Biafrans want? What is this new battle, this 2017
apart
battle?
From watching Biafra?
Yes, what do you, so is that all you want? Like, just give us Biafra and let us be going? Is that what you want? Grace, this question is to you.
From Nigeria.
You want division? Is that what you said?
Yes, that's what we want.
Okay.
Okay.
So that
what?
So that what can happen?
So that our lives can be secured.
So you think your lives are at risk?
Of course.
Where?
It's okay. So
in the north, in the west.
Let her talk. Let her talk.
South.
In the south.
I need. Her voice is very. The line is not bad. So please, Grace.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Please speak.
Hello.
I can hear you.
Yes,
I can hear you.
Great.
Oh God. Hello.
Oh dear. I can hear you.
Yeah, you just speak. Oh gosh.
I think we're losing her. That's unfortunate.
Oh,
so, is that something? Is that a view you share? Obina, do you think there are Igbo lives at risk? Do you think Igbos are not given the security, the respect, the resources that the rest of Nigeria gets? Is there a problem that is peculiar to the Igbo race or ethnic group, I should say?
The thing I can point out is one of the reasons. You see, the thing is, I have not bought into the Biafran struggle because I believe that there are a lot of booby traps. If the day I buy into it is the day I will have answers to all these booby traps.
Okay.
One initially was the landlocked scenario, which I believe, like I said, is not a death sentence. Yeah. Two is being surrounded by enemies, which I think is a bit of an overplay. Because to be honest, at the end of the day, when a division happens, interest will probably be more economic.
Okay.
Three is forget the issue of unity and all that. You see, there is no homogeneous people that is 100% united, so that's not even an issue. But having said that, the fact that the Igbos are widely traveled across Nigeria, that issue of this once in a while leave our land, quick notice this, that. It leaves a very, very sore taste. That's one. Two, when crises tend to happen, especially up north, it's not, 1966 may have been targeted particularly at Igbo, so other people may have died as well. But you see, that is not a very
good way to make a statement.
Okay, other people have died. Okay.
I mean, 2009, I was running for my life in Jos, not because I'm really evil, but
listen. I am trying to make a categorical statement. I'm also admitting that other people died. Do you understand? I said other people died.
Not that they.
You said may have.
Okay,
you were corrected.
Other people died.
The problems that we have.
Okay, sorry. Other people died.
Don't apologize to me, Joe.
So other people died. But we know the people that were targeted. It was clear. Right? It was clear. There was the 1962 whatever minutes of the meeting in Northern House was saying blah blah blah. Yeah, we have matured to an extent, but we still have intermittent crisis. But you see, the fact that the Igbos are the most traveled and domicile and diaspora domiciled people in Nigeria makes them potentially the highest number of casualties in any fracas. You see, these two things, believe me, you see, people say economic, there is also psychological. these two things.
So sit down in our house now, Orishe. So if the Igbos are the highest, so this is a numbers game, right? The Nigerians are probably the most traveled black. In fact, they're the most populous black race, right? So or black nationality, if you like. So if there is a thing where 100 black people died in Kenya or something, chances are there will be a Nigerian amongst them. Would we then say, they're
fine? You see, Nigeria as a country cannot force Kenyan jurisdiction. But when people in a particular country do not feel safe in their own country, you
completely missed the point of my argument. I am saying,
can I finish? Can I finish? You see, they feel. You see, it is a peculiar thing, right? It is a peculiar thing. In many states, many areas outside the southeast, after the local population, right, the Igbos come in second in population most of the time, or many a times, right? So now, because of that characteristics of the Igbos to travel, and the fact that Nigeria is not yet a mature country where you can come out and say, I live in this area, I domicile in this area, this is my area. Clinton was an Arkansarian from Arkansas. Her husband was the governor of Arkansas. She's a senator in New York senator. Nigeria is maybe heading towards there, but we are nowhere near there yet. You understand? So these things tend to leave a sort of vulnerability in your psyche. Then, okay, assuming, okay, let us even forget that. Let's leave the numbers game. How about the quick notices directed specifically at the Igbos?
You know what? You just hold on, please. I've not really been allowed to say anything.
Please speak, Dolapo.
So please let me just address those issues that, especially the last one you just made now, the quick notice. Quick notice was made by some group that call themselves whatever, whatever. We have seen a whole lot. We have seen at least most of the northern governors come out to denounce it. And actually there's an order to find out who these people are and get them arrested. Now, with the kind of vitriol that's been coming out of Igbo lands against the Northerners and Yoruba people, I've not heard one governor come out to say, you know what, you don't need to say all these bad things about people, all right? So let's keep things in perspective.
Number one. Number two, Obina, let me say this about the quit notice. Things don't happen in a vacuum. People didn't sleep and wake. I wonder what I should do today. Let's give Igbo people quit notice. That sounds like a fun thing to do on a Thursday afternoon. That's not what happened. There has been ongoing tension. The Igbos have not made, let me rephrase that, as Nkiru corrected me earlier on in the program. The pro-Biafrans have not made you were not silent or tactful or mindful of the land you were living in or where you were when you are saying the things that you are saying. There are pro-Biafrans in Nasarawa saying what they're saying. There are pro-Biafrans in Kaduna saying what they're saying. There are pro-Biafrans in Kano saying what they're saying. And then people say, okay, you don't want to be here, get out of our land. And you say, look, we are being victimized, I think you see now. I think you see victimization don't start now. I think I can actually hear Grace. So let me get Grace in. Just 1 minute.
Can I reply that? Now, you see, there is one common misconception people make. Right? There is one common misconception. Now, like I said, I'm not pro-Biafra. But you see, demanding for self-determination, right, and expecting to be protected in an area where you are domiciled, they are not mutually exclusive.
Fair enough.
They are not.
You didn't address.
I don't know if you purposely. I don't know if you purposely miss me or what.
Hate message.
You can
what you're doing is deflected.
Forget without calling us a zoo. without calling us animals.
See, that is the thing. I am taking out the
context.
I am taking out the context of the hate message. What I'm saying
is the hate message.
But that's what you're trying to do. That's what you're asking us to do. You're asking us to forget the hate language and just focus on the message itself that you want out. It's not mutually exclusive.
What of somebody who is living in Zaria?
We need one at a time, and it's getting a bit rowdy, please. At this moment, Obina, please, I'm going to need you to give me a minute. I need Grace to come into the room. Grace, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Fantastic. As we were speaking, I said, what is it that the pro-Biafrans wanted? You said division. You just want your own land so that you can be going. When you have that division, say for example, this goes through the correct channels, i.e. a referendum, or it's something that is agreed in the House of Republic, or one person carried scissors and cut the land, cut them, and give you your own land. What happens next? Are you saying you want no ties? So you want your own nationality, you want your own currency, you want your own money, you want to be self-sufficient, you want to grow your own produce, you want to buy and eat your own produce? Is that what you're saying? You don't want to talk to us, and we should not talk to you. Is that it? Hi, Grace. Oh, this isn't going to work, I don't think.
Where is she calling from now?
She's calling from Nigeria. Ekirita is also calling from Nigeria, but we can't seem to hear. We seem to hear him okay. I just don't know why we
You
can't.
never know. Maybe the tower there's no NEPA.
There's no this iPod tower that you people have set up in where she is. So let's move on, because we see this seems to happen. We get bogged down in semantics. We get bogged down in things that really shouldn't matter. I think the quit notice didn't come from out of a vacuum. You can slice it or dice it. Nobody came out and just started hating on Igbos. And I think that's... Go ahead, please.
Please, I just want to give an example, because I'm out here in Canada. We had the last referendum for Quebec, I think, a couple of years ago.
Yes.
And it was defeated. Now, you see, the Quebecers did not come out, they didn't come out and start shouting, oh, you, the rest of Canada, you're evil. Yeah, please leave us alone, what to be. They just said, you know what, we have a separate heritage in terms of our French connections or whatever, and they wanted to be by themselves. Now, what Canada did was say, okay, fine, you will have a referendum. When you have a referendum, you can decide whether you want to go. But when you decide if you want to go, here are the things that you need to put in perspective. Your country is going to be landlocked because you have no access to the sea. That's a fact. Oh, what about, I can't remember the name of the river there. Yeah, the river runs through your province, but it also runs through another province before getting out to the ocean.
And we will
that is our country.
Yes.
I will block your trade, or I will tax you like hell before you go anywhere. Also, the revenue you're receiving from other provinces, because Canada also does a revenue sharing from the federal, all right? You will no longer be entitled to that. So these are things that they had not to consider, and I decided, you know what? We're not going.
It doesn't.
In fact, we don't like this Quebec we don't like this party Quebec or whatever anymore. Most of them are now, the party has disintegrated to the point that they don't have any. I think they have maybe one or two members in parliament. That's it. Common sense.
And that's the reason why I'm not pro Biafra right now.
You've always said it that you're pro. So I'm curious. So let's have this discussion, Obina. You keep saying that you're not pro Biafra, you're pro restructuring. What does that look like in your eyes? What is pro restructuring?
Regional control.
Pardon?
So go ahead, please break it down for us.
Pro-restructuring?
Yes.
Pro-restructuring is massive devolution of powers and responsibilities, shrinking the exclusive list, right, and taking them down to the concurrent list. I gave an example. I'll give you some critical examples now. I use the example of power. It's ridiculous, but that is what it is. If a state generates, builds a power plant, right? If a state builds a power plant, that state does not determine how much power it gets. That is ridiculous. If Lagos generates 1,000 megawatts, if Lagos State generates 1,000 megawatts, it goes to the national grid. Everything goes to the national grid. And the national grid operated by the federal government can decide that Lagos gets 100 megawatts out of that. That is one, right? Two, let's look at the issue of the ports. There are 6 ports in the country. There is a Tinkan, there is a Papa port, there is a Lekki port under construction, there is a Warri, there is One, there is a Rivers port, then there's a plant Bakassi Deep Sea and Ibaka Deep Sea. Right now, you see, Apapa and Tinkan are overloaded. They are overloaded. Now the road leading to Apapa port has been closed down, with severe economic consequences for the country. That is where I was trying to use comparative cost advantage. Now, look at Ibaka Deep Sea Port in Akwa Ibom. Is about the deepest, potentially the deepest seaport without dredging. That seaport was conceptualized in 1952. Up till today, it's still at conception stage. Now, Akwa Ibom cannot tap out of that comparative cost advantage because the power to develop that port lies with the federal government. Now, on a port, right, the operational logistics on a port is making it so difficult for people to patronize that place. For goods that cost you about 300,000 naira in Lagos, will cost you about 900,000 naira to clear in One. What does that then mean? From the countries where they're importing it from, why do I go to One? I'll go to Lagos. Now, that's the issue of ports. I have used the issue of roads. Lagos, I'm sure you must have known, from the time of Tinubu versus Ogunlewe, who was Transport, Roads and Works Minister, Fashola fought with someone else. Then now Fashola is Works Minister, he's fighting with Ambode. Now, what is the federal government doing hundreds of miles away when a governor who can basically just stroll wants responsibility and there is a fight? These are the things we are talking about.
Yes, we're talking about these things, but as the governors also, so we can talk about federal government roads in states not being maintained. What about the
state roads?
The state roads are not maintained. So why is it that if the state roads are not maintained, why will they be maintained? Why would they, you see, and that is what I started with at the beginning. I said instead of us dealing with the fact that the current problem is not working just because of the federal government, it is not working because we have bad leaders at state level. Let us tackle that instead of thinking there's going to be this miracle where we will suddenly get, state governors will suddenly get all the power they want, and they will become Jesus Christ and Mohammed wrapped into one.
You see,
if they're not doing it now, they won't do it then.
I think we are oversimplifying it. To further illustrate what she just said now, it's kind of like your son at maybe 18, 19 saying, "Dad, okay, I understand. I don't like the way you give me money. Sometimes you're supposed to give me regularly at the weekly or bi-weekly, but you don't. I'm being marginalized in this house. I want control over whatever money I want." And the father is looking at you and saying, "Show me how you've managed what you get."
Thank you.
It's as simple as that. The people are not calling their own regional leaders to order. When your regional leader, I can't remember what state I read either today or yesterday, is talking about building a world-class international airport. Have you built your roads first? Or you're just thinking about transport for the elite only? Somebody mentioned earlier that there are only 2 tribes of people in Nigeria, the elite and the poor.
No, the corrupt politicians and their friends and ordinary Nigerians. Kogi,
I am not arguing.
Salary, 15 months.
I am not.
All of Kogi State is not marching on the streets, saying they are blaming the FG.
I started my argument.
Obina, 15. No, think about it. 15.
Buki,
one state governor.
Listen,
yeah?
I started my argument with the two aspects of nationhood. One, good governance. Two, structure. You understand? See,
yeah.
I am one of the people who eats up anybody. If I have criticized Yaya Bello, despite the fact that his chief press secretary is my personal friend. I criticized Yaya Bello for 15 months. I've criticized my own state governor for building Christmas trees and blah blah blah. There's no governor. If I have not talked to any governor, is because I probably don't know him. Even El Rufai. You understand?
Yes, I've criticized them all.
We should not pretend. We should not act as if one exists devoid of the other. Like I've always said, why is Lagos State seem to be performing? Lagos State seems to perform because we are in the land of the blind, and Lagos just has one eye on.
But it doesn't
but
matter.
they're still on the eye. They're still on the eye. So
let all the others begin to have half eye.
Thank you.
I don't care.
Thank you.
Better than no eye, dead eye.
It can be done. It can be done at the same time. It can be done at the same time.
Dead eye holes. You know.
It can be done. It can be done at the same time because
so let me
more likely to waste.
Let me go back to a question. Let me just ask. I will keep trying and trying. Can you hear us, Grace? Because I know she's chatting offline. I know she wants to talk, but this connection, can you hear us?
Oh, I can hear you.
Fantastic. Hopefully this one will work. Now, this sounds very strong. So the question I was asking you is, if you were to get your Biafra, what happens next?
What happens next? First of all, I would like to be secured.
You would like to what? Sorry, what just happened?
Our life will be secured.
Our lives will be secured. Oh yes, that's where we were. Yes. Now the question I was asking was, who is threatening your life now? What is insecure about your life? Obina, who has been speaking since last fortnight, he was saying about Igbos being one of the most traveled in the country. Really, you've reached every single part of Nigeria. Is there a great uprising against Igbos? Are Igbos dying like flies in other states for no reason?
All right.
Talk to me, Grace.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Maybe send her a message and say,
we always get to the same place. We always get to the same place and then we lose her. This is, I don't think I can keep trying this.
Can I just, okay. Let me look as if I'm talking too much anyway.
Let you know, look as if even...
Yeah, you're already talking too much, guys.
So I want to say something at this point. Oh, yes, go ahead, Grace. Yes.
Yes, I was talking about the coup, the 1966 coup.
Mm-hmm.
And after the coup, there was a counter coup. And 30,000 civilians, Igbos, were killed. And up to date, no one has...
In the counter coup?
Yes, in the counter coup.
Okay.
Okay,
now,
you know what?
You
want to talk...
Sorry?
Continue.
Please let her finish.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll let her finish. I was going to bring up Ahmadu Bello. If anybody knows how Ahmadu Bello was killed, they keep talking about this thing as if they are the only ones that suffered.
You suffered the most, yeah.
No, just continue. The most, yeah, but not the only one.
3 officers were killed and 10 civilians, people, 30,000 were killed, and so many were displaced, so many were wounded, and up to date, no one has been punished for that.
Mm-hmm.
So is that what you want? Do you want reparations for a 1966 coup?
No. Presently, you are battling with the herdsmen in Igbo land, and federal government is doing nothing about it.
But the herdsmen are attacking all across.
No, let her. I want, because this one that we can hear her. I don't want anybody to interrupt. Continue. While your reception is ready.
presently also the ultimatum that was given to Igbos, if nothing is done and this month runs out, trust me, there's going to be great massacre of Igbos in the north, and nothing will be done about it. Not my words for it.
Okay, so your position is, first of all, the 1966 crew, you believe there were no reparations made for that. Herdsmen are currently slaughtering Igbos and nothing is being done about that. If this threat by the Arawa youth or whoever this ragtag bunch of rapscallions goes ahead, again, Igbos will be killed and nothing will be done about that.
Yes.
And for these three reasons, you want your own country so that if anybody's...
You know, these guys have already exhausted the economical reasons and political reasons. So I just wanted to do this.
Okay, yes, because you were able to hear, but you couldn't speak. Okay, so yes, there are political reasons, and so one of the reasons you want to raise is also the point of security. Let me hand that over to, who shall I give that to? Who can handle this in a very nice way? I don't trust that Dolakbo of somebody. Oh yeah, Buki. Buki, would you like to address her? So she mentioned three things. First of all, reparations for the 1966 coup, and I would like Ekerete to give a rejoinder once Buki is done. She mentioned the herdsmen killing Igbos, and then she says if this present threat about the quit notice is not addressed, then there will be a massacre once again, and nothing will happen. So, Buki, would you please address this?
1966, the coup, the counter coup, was a terrible time. Nobody disagreed. Northerners feel very strongly about what they think were done to northern officers and their pope. Everybody forgets that for northerners, the guy who was killed was the equivalent of their spiritual leader. And I've had northerner friends tell me, you could have killed 100,000 northerners and we would not have felt as bad as what you did to this man. So it is like both sides are not understanding that both sides feel just as strongly.
Yes.
That you killed our pope. You know, and Igbos are like, you slaughtered us. Our blood was running in the street.
So and the slaughter was selective.
So where I'm coming from is that it needs to be addressed on both sides. It's not as one-sided as it sounds. It's very difficult for us to see things from another person's point of view. But until we begin to, we will just keep on rehashing old wounds. First thing first. Second thing, herdsmen are killing everybody.
But wait, so before you move away from that point of first things first, until we agree that, do you think both sides were justified based on, you killed the equivalent of our pope? Or do you think, let me finish the sentence. Or do you think Igbos are owed some kind of reparation for the 1966? Do you personally think?
No, I don't. There was a war. No. Excuse me, please. There was a war. And somebody, it's very sad to say this, but there was a war and somebody lost. Yes. Every time somebody loses in a war, the loser feels bad. I'm talking of the aftermath of the Civil War. After the war, I believe Nigeria could have done more to rebuild Igbo land. But then at the same time, I also think Nigeria could have done more to rebuild all of Nigeria.
To rebuild Nigeria.
So we can say that, yes, Igbo land was not taken care of after the war in the way that it could have been. But it wasn't because the Nigerian military government was making all of Nigeria paradise. Every single Nigerian, I think it was Obinna Jesu who said this, has suffered.
Yes.
Every state has suffered at the hands of the federal government. Every single state has suffered. So repatriations, I will go maybe Nigeria can, for the sake of goodwill, like the Queen did in Northern Ireland,
have a public apology.
Make an apology and say we regret what happened. You are our brothers. We ill-treated you. We love you. You are one of us. Yes, maybe a public apology will help. I'm not saying it's the answer, but maybe it will go some way towards people realizing that they're valued.
Because I know we're running out of time. Yeah. I'd like you to look at Iraq and look at what happened with Saddam Hussein when the U.S. went in. They went there with their slogan basically to help Iraqis out. But in all the bombs they dropped, of all the people they killed, 90% of them were civilians.
Thank you.
Yes.
Now they took control
the
of
civilians
the
that you say you want to save them. You went to liberate them.
After you've now killed Saddam and you've liberated them, at least so-called liberation, you took over their oil. American companies were now pumping, so you're using their own resources even, and there was no mention of reparation, compensation for lives lost.
Yeah.
Why do we always scream this thing? 400 years of slavery, nobody talk about reparation. I think the only place that I've heard of reparation being paid was Germans to Jews, and that's because Germany lost the war.
Not only did Germany lost the war,
and that's why the Germans came out more.
No. Let me tell you the other thing that the Germans did. With the reason why the Holocaust remains a crime in Germany. You cannot print books pro-Holocaust. You cannot deny that the Holocaust happened. You cannot print Hitler's book, the Vaterland, Mein Kampf, or what have you. Yes, you cannot do any of that. It's because it wasn't a war. It was a wholesale slaughter. This is not I fight you, you fight me, you get gone, me self I get gone.
This was let us round you up and
yes, it wasn't a war. The reparations that Germany offered was never to England or to France, the people they were actually fighting with, the people
Poland.
Or Poland, the reparations were to the Jews.
Can I?
We forget that even of all the millions. Hold on, just 10 seconds. Of all the millions that Germany killed in their so-called concentration camps, we know Jews were majority of it, but there were other people also.
Yes. There were Romani.
Homosexuals. Anybody they thought was not pure enough.
Yes, right. Absolutely. Anybody that was not part of the Aryan race.
That was anybody that was not European white.
Anybody that was not Aryan. It wasn't even European white. Because it became very, blonde came into it, blue eyes came into it. The segregation of it is still in Germany till today. Their men are 6'4". The men are blonde and blue. They went to town. It didn't happen by accident. It was very selective, and it was
their master race.
But let's get back to what we're talking about, because we've gone into Judaism all over again.
Can I just say something regarding
Please
this?
Please do, Obina. Yes, I will.
Now the thing is this. The civil war is unfortunate. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I insist within the war that was fought, there were clear documented cases, you understand, of willful execution. You understand? Very obvious. It was what happened in Asaba by no other than Muritala Muhammad.
On both sides.
Wow, on both sides. Why don't you ever say that?
Okay, let him continue. Okay, Obina, continue.
We are talking about documentation. Listen, we're talking about documentation, yeah? So at least that of Muritala Muhammad is well documented. He was rewarded with being head of state 10 years after, right? So, but let's even leave all of that. Personally, I don't think the civil war on its own is a standalone reason why the Igbos should want to leave Nigeria. It can be an addition to to other fundamental reasons, which I still feel are not enough right now, but I don't think the civil war on its own is a standalone.
She's not putting it alone. And help her with the points, because I don't want to lose her and then we can't get her points across. Her point is security. She feels that an Igbo life is worth less in Nigeria than any other life.
I have a question for that. I have a question for her. That.
Well, the thing is, to be honest, I cannot fully speak pro Biafra, because there are certain things I am not convinced about. I'll be honest about that. You understand? I will be honest. I can give you debate arguments, but I am not inside me convicted. You understand about it? I have ideas about how the so-called obstacles can be overcome. Yeah.
You don't go Nigeria too. Or is that you, happened? Rachel?
I can hear you, Dolapo. Buki, would you like to say something? Buki? I hear Dolapo. Yes, say something. Let me get. If anyone can. I'm getting a lot of people saying what's happening, and I can't seem to work out what is happening. Okay, I think we're back. Hello? Dolapo, it's just you and me.
We are experiencing technical difficulties. You may not hear everyone on the call. You will be prompted when the conference is reconnected.
Rachel, can you hear us? Rachel, hi.
Can you hear me? I can hear you.
Perfect. So, Dolapo, are you still in the room?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Okay, I think a couple of people just there was a problem with the studio platform that we're using, but I think people will start joining us one after the other. If you found yourself disconnected, please just call back into the studio and we can proceed. I'm a bit concerned that no one has given.
Wait, hold on a second. We have a video feed.
No. The conference call thing that we use.
Oh, okay. I thought you said, the video. I'm like,
So let me just speak to people and tell everyone to call back in. If Obina can join us, if Grace can join us back in. Buki in particular, I would like to see Buki join us back. I'm just not 100%. I haven't been convinced of any of the arguments. So all the people who I thought were pro Biafra.
This conference has been reconnected.
Fantastic. We've been reconnected. Buki, can you hear me?
Hello, yeah.
Hello. Oh, I hear Obina. Yeah. Ekerete, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Ekerete, yes, fantastic.
I'm here.
Buki, can you hear us? Hi, Buki. Inkiru, say hi if you can hear us.
Hi.
Hi, darling. Dolapo never left. So I really hoped what happened last fortnight was, I've got a message. Okay, Buki says she's trying to come back in. Fantastic. What happened last fortnight almost seemed like there was a whole bunch of us on the against platform. I tried so hard this platform to get more people on the for platform to come and speak, but you know how we do it on the Talking Drum. I didn't, it has to be intelligent. It has to be people who can put a thought across, who can come back to us and say, this is what we want, this is why we want it, and we think it will work because of this. We have already set certain precedents. We've already put certain things in the way. This is what we want to do. This is by 2018, we foresee this happening. By 2020, we see this happening. This is what is happening in our own states. Look at our state of the art roads. Look at our state. We've done everything we need to do. We are just waiting for the federal government to leave us alone. And I'm not hearing that. I am not hearing that. Buki, are you with us?
I'm back. Yes.
Hi, Buki. Thank you so much for coming back.
I think.
Yes,
what's your name again? Sorry.
My name is Rachel.
Rachel, sorry, yeah. You actually thought that I was a Biafran, or rather, highly pro-Biafran. What I did was to be a devil's advocate. You understand?
Mm.
One thing I am, my opinion is usually nuanced. You understand? Like I said before the thing cut off, most of the obstacles the Nigerians are seeing, the rest of Nigeria is seeing, either maybe because of bias or because of they did not have, they're not the one wearing the shoes, are not what I see. You understand what I'm trying to say? Forget that landlocked thing, forget that mutual enemy thing, forget what am I saying? Forget that issue of disunity thing. What I am seeing is one. I am seeing someone who is a rallying point, who is a demagogue of some sort. And on my page, you see, no matter what I say about Biafra, you hardly hear me mention nnamdi-kanu. You understand? Two, a lot of the Biafran struggle might be based on emotion. But you see, any historian and someone that sits down and will be able to sieve out some critical aspects in all the noise. It's just like feminism. A lot of people who are talking about feminism are just projecting their hate. But you see, when you sit down and realize and see, you find that there are still some sensible arguments in all the noise. Now, and three, you see, Nigeria lost her innocence when the first shots of that civil war was fired. The fact that the civil war took place means that 50, 100, or 150 years from now, it will still remain a dream in some people. Just like the Confederacy, 450 years after the last shot was fired, is still fantasized. You will see Igbo, you are likely to see an Igbo man who, just because of the 1966 program, wants Biafra. You will see another Igbo man who, because the Federation has continued faltering, wants Biafra. You understand? Then you will see somebody who still sees a little bit of hope despite all this. So, but at the end of the day, one point people can take out from Chetan's view is this: Nigeria is not working. We are all wired differently culturally as a people.
Nigeria is not working, but restructuring or division or any of those things, as we have seen in the last hour and 46 minutes, is not the answer. Because even as a village, villages are not working, towns are not working, cities are not working, states are not working, the nation isn't working.
The country.
Because
it's
sorry, go ahead.
It's a country of opinion.
1 minute, please, Obina. Go ahead, please, Grace. That's because. Grace?
That's because Nigeria is not identity. Nigeria is just a name the British term for administrative use. No one's identity. Nigeria is not a country. Nigeria has never been in existence.
Do you think Britain was a country 1,000 years ago?
So,
or was a separate map entirely?
There are a whole bunch of countries that were not countries.
Italy must have been a country that is there for the past 2,000 years, right?
Italy was not a country that existed.
You understand? Now, I'm actually tiring. Now, this is it. I'm expecting, this thing. Okay, the moderator asked a question to Grace. Can Biafra stand? Can it work? Now, I was expecting that today's discussion would be centered more about, okay, if we have Biafra, if Biafra exists, what is the way forward? And then we would, put up challenges for them, being claims that...
Right. Tell us what your map is like. I will tell you South is not going with you.
One
minute, please, Obina. Finish what you were saying, Akarete.
Yeah. So he said that he's got ideas on how he could take on each obstacle, dismantle them, and then probably succeed at achieving Biafra, which, to me, it seems to be very, very difficult. I don't even see that happening for them in any very near, in fact, even the distant future. unless they're just going to risk it and then probably die in the process.
Because that is what I have been asking for.
We have lack of interstate relationship already.
True.
We have the issues that have to do with their currency and then the value of the currency. I don't know if they thought about that. I don't know if, just like Buki pointed out, is there really anything that the Southeast can say, okay, they are producing, they are making that thing upon which they can hold on to and say, look, Nigeria, this is ours. This is not yours. Okay, we're going to.
And we're taking it with us when we go.
Yes, that kind of thing. Yes, that kind of thing. You know, these are the things that are going that would affect currency.
The oil is not yours.
Whoa! Did I just hear the oil? Everybody, calm down. Wait, let Grace finish. I'm gonna mute everybody.
No. Excuse me. I think
I'm muting everybody.
Everybody, because Abia and Imo State.
Let me just look for Obina and just mute.
Kaduna State has oil.
Everybody quiet.
State has oil.
Grace said
Ondo State has oil.
Niger State, Ondo Ekiti has oil. I mean, I don't think there's any state in Nigeria that doesn't have oil. Though. If you want to really go into the oil talk, I'm just saying, is there anything on ground? Is there anything already happening? For example, talking about Lagos State generating power. Talking about
you people let Grace's line fall off the thing. I wanted to hear her say this oil matter. I was muting all of you one by one.
Rachel. South Rachel. Your blood was fired. Worry girl, eh? Your blood.
Rachel, listen.
Sorry, Obina, go ahead.
I was having this same discussion. I was having this same discussion last weekend. And it was at a friend's place. I was having a barbecue, and it was two Igbo guys. There was one guy from Agbo, and maybe 4 Yoruba guys, which includes me. And the Igbo guy, who we basically nicknamed Igwe, basically was all pro Biafra, blah blah blah, this and that. And he said, "We'll go. Okay, where's your map?" He located everything. He said, "Onicha, we'll dredge it all the way down." He said, "You dredge it through whose territory? Whose territory are you dredging through?" And he was like, well, even the South will go with them, this one. And the Agbo man stood up and said, "We are not going with you. We're not going to your own country to become the slave in your own country."
Can I just play the devil's advocate here? One.
Go ahead.
Now, first of all, let me clear up one point. Why I did not want to come in this discussion as entirely pro Biafra was one. When Rachel told me she had gotten people, I don't know who they are. I don't know what their views are. Like I said, this Biafran struggle is a spectrum. One extreme is just pure secession. The other extreme is restructuring or secession. So I did not know whom Rachel was going to bring, and I did not know what spectrum or
where they fell on the spectrum. So let me get this out of the way, Obina. Let me tell you the trouble I found.
I might come and be arguing for a 5 southeastern state Biafra, and the person who is on my side is arguing for Biafra that includes southeast and south. The debate will collapse. But I can play the devil's advocate. If you want to talk about the challenges facing whatever it is the Igbos want as a state of their own. You understand? That's why I said what the ordinary Nigerian is seeing, I do not see it as a problem. I don't, to be honest. I do not see it as a problem. You're talking about what we have on ground. True, there is nothing on ground. Basically, there is nothing on ground.
So let me move on to, because we're running out of time now. I need to move on to Dolapo. And Dolapo, I need some closing comments from you. We have 6 minutes left to the show. I need some closing comments from you. So let me talk about let me just quickly answer Obina. Sorry, I just remembered something before you come in, Dolapo. I'll do this in 30 seconds or less. In trying to get people to speak pro this show, I reached out to nothing less than 18 pro-Biafra people on my wall. So that is people who I knew were pro-Biafra, reading through their walls and seeing what people who were agreeing with them was saying, having a look at, the IQ and stuff like that and what sort of comments they were putting on. The people that I actually slid into their inbox and said, hey, I'm doing this show, would you like to join us? There were supposed to be 18. Now, I got 2 names. There was Grace and there was another fellow. So the other fellow, during the week, he started sending me, and then there's this, and then there's this. I was like, whoa. I hope you don't think I'm a Biafra sympathizer. That is not what this is. This is not going to be a 2-hour iPop show. There's going to be people anti, and there's going to be people pro. Biafra. I just want you, everything you have been saying on your wall, come and say it on the show. That is all I want you to come and do. So he said, okay, so there'll be other people there who don't agree with Biafra. I was like, yeah, that's how a show works, right? And it was...
It's obvious I will not be able to flow with such a person. You understand?
Just yesterday, he sent me a very fuzzy, sorry, can't make it, walk thing. He was the first person to agree. Before Grace ever even agreed, before anybody else ever even agreed, I had 2 people on board who were going to be pro-Biafra. As soon as I said, it's going to be a debate. There's going to be people for, there's going to be people against. I don't care where you...
nothing to say.
And he just closed up shop. So that's what I'm saying about when I contacted you and said to you, I have people who are pro Biafra. At the time I was saying that to you, I had Grace and one other person. It was yesterday evening that he begged off out of the show. Dolapo, we have 5 minutes left. I'm sorry I took so long. I would just like to have some closing statements from you as to what do you think is the way forward, because the fact still remains that whether you agree with Biafra or not, there are people who do. So what do you think is the way forward for Nigeria in about a minute, please?
The way forward for Nigeria, for me, because you have to understand, I'm a pro-Nigeria. Yes. I'm a pro-Nigerian straight up. I am not pro-Yoruba or pro-Igbo or pro-Biafra or anything. I'm pro-Nigeria. Yep. And that's because I believe that if that country is made to work the way it's supposed to work, we will be a force to reckon with a community of nations. So I think the way forward, we have very simple things other than, let's call for referendum and all that stuff. Somebody already said it. We need to go back to having regional powers or regional areas that can go ahead and start sorting out their own areas by themselves. But before we go that, we have a very big challenge. We need to deal with corruption, and we need to deal with it in the sense that all our so-called political leaders and office holders need to be dealt with. They are stealing all that belongs to us, and we are constantly praising them.
And he go finish.
Yeah,
this thing that you think is
so
just so...
Because
thank you.
Everything that we're fighting for right now, the common denominator in all that is oil. Oil is becoming less relevant every day. All right?
Yep. Under $50
so we need to
figure
this out. So to me, those are things that I know we need to deal with corruption, so that you don't go into government thinking that it's your lottery ticket. You will make money. No, that's not the purpose. We're not saying come into government and you become a pauper. We're saying, earn what you're supposed to earn, not some ridiculous amount and allowances and wardrobe allowances. No.
Okay.
But you cannot
I'm gonna have to round you up.
One more thing. Wait, one more thing. One thing that I really want today that we need to take out of our lexicon in government is state of origin. We need to replace that with state of residence.
Yes.
Yep. I agree.
Yes.
I agree.
So let me go to Obina. Obina, please, in 1 minute, could you just round off and let me know, because you've made it very clear that you are not pro secession, you are pro restructuring. So please go ahead.
Yeah. Personally, I am pro good governance. I'm pro restructuring, because history. I'm using history. Not only am I using the structural knowledge of how federations work, I'm using history as a guide. Nations have broken apart even with high GDPs, simply because the structures were not right. You understand? Now, am I saying one should come before the other? No, 2 of them can be pursued at the same time. We can kill corruption today And then tomorrow we find out that, look, this federal government, we have too many responsibilities. That's why we can function more efficiently by devolving this to the state, which is fine. You're doing good governance and restructuring. Good governance came first, restructuring came second. Or we restructure and we find out, oh, look, these people, they are still thieving our money. Even governor, where we think say money comes from Abuja to give up, we still thief our money. We hold them to more accounts. So, you see, we should not pretend the other does not exist. That's the problem. There is good governance. There is still structural problem. There is still a structural problem. We need to be aware at the very, very, very least. Now, one of the reasons why I voted Brian was he may have laid the foundation for good governance, and then the structural problems come to bear. But unfortunately, he has failed. So it's still probably for good reason. Probably maybe it's for divine reason that he failed. It makes people realize that they are their own messiahs. We'll stop listening and waiting for one big man to come and correct all the ills and start taking responsibility ourselves.
And start building institutions.
Okay, so let me get to Ekerete. Thank you very much, Obina. Ekerete, I'm sorry. Ekerete, please, just 1 minute of your time, please.
Okay, so way for Nigeria. Well, I think that we can begin to re-educate the youth, okay? Because in the end, the youth become the tools that will be used in the event of a violent uprising, etc.
Yes.
We need that re-education. We need people like Obina who can really talk very well and write very well, to write things, and probably books even, make these things over one line. I think that, for example, we can begin with a social media advocation, okay? For advocacy at all levels, for pursuing, policies that would help things to get better. And just like he said, you see, we talked about that electricity thing affected the Kwara State, and there are also a couple of people. Myself, I found an investor who became stranded when we discovered that there is no provision. Well, the provision that exists would not allow him to make as much money as he would have expected to make if he were to generate power. So, sure, that business is off. That kind of thing. So we can advocate for these things, okay, in our regions, in our various states. We can start by doing that and not just think that dividing the country is the solution. Dividing the country is not the solution, cannot be the solution. Dividing the country would even mean reducing access to certain resources, by or from some other region. So how does that help us, moving forward towards prosperity, etc.? I think that Nigeria can be greater together, and that's not, there's no point intended there. We can actually be greater together. We can come together and work, add our efforts cumulatively, and achieve all these things, that we complain about. Increase the economic power, not just of the country, but of each individual. That can happen, and I advise that without being too aggressive, we can, begin to call our senators to order, call our House of Rep members to order, call our governors even to order, and not just calling them to order, but also suggesting, solutions to the problems that exist.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. Thank you so much, Ekerete. We are completely out of time. Completely out of time. If Buki is still with us, Buki, I would love 1 minute of your time. We're well into overtime now, but I can't leave without getting a sentence from you. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Rachel. Nigeria is a great country. Nigeria has a lot of potential. What Nigeria lacks is Nigerians who believe in Nigeria.
Yes.
And Nigerians who are fighting for Nigeria. If we spend less time complaining and spend more time trying to build the nation will get built. All those of us in the West, if we study the history of the West is the way it is today because their men and women fought to build their nations. We have one nation, Nigeria. Let us start with our leadership. Let us start with ourselves. Let us start with our institutions. Let us stop blaming everybody else and start blaming ourselves. Yes. Let us forget about starting at your state governor level. Start at your LGA level.
Yes.
Start asking your LGA chairman what he's doing with his allocation. Then start asking your rep, your state rep, what he's doing. Then start asking your governor what he's doing. Ask your commissioner what he's doing. I'm just talking about your state. Before you now even get into the federal government. If we are all doing that, then we will have a nation. This utopia, this messianic, we keep on waiting for a messiah. And our new messiah is restructuring. Our new messiah is, if only we had a new structure, it will work. No, the new structure will be full of the same old people, and it will not work. So let us start trying to make what we have work. When we get that to work at 25%, then we can say, maybe restructuring, we can now build upon that 25%. But if we are dragging minus 50 into restructuring, I tell you, we will still be where we are in 50 years' time, even if we are 10 countries by that time. Even if we are 10 countries by that time, we will still be saying exactly the same thing. So Nigeria will not grow until we Nigerians make it happen. There is no Messiah. Buhari is not a Messiah. Osibajo is not a Messiah. Jesus Christ ain't coming down from heaven. It is Nigerians who are going to make Nigeria work.
Thank you so much. Hallelujah. Dolapo,
God.
I think we have come to the end. Jesus, Lord, I need a stiff drink. Thank you so much, you guys. Oh, that was some... Grace, are you with us? Grace, is that you?
Yeah, that's me.
Wonderful. Oh, yeah. Please give us... I'll definitely give you a few minutes. We've had a lot of technical issues, but I want to hear your side. We cannot go into a full discussion now, but if you just give us a minute of why you think Biafra and what you see for the future for Nigeria or for Biafra, as it were. Please go ahead.
Okay, I would say Nigeria cannot work, can never work, because Nigeria is not even totally independent. And the Biafrans have always been a target and victim alike. I mean, right from history, we've been...
Hey, who's child?
We've been in the... Hello?
We can hear you.
Yes, you can.
Okay. The Northerners have always been envious of us, of our progress, of our success, and they're just so envious that they cannot even conserve their hatred for us. I mean, in northern Nigeria, about 1963, they released a statement that they called Nigerian Situation Facts and Background. In that, they made an assumption that Igbos have been a group of
Unfortunately, it looks like we've lost you. We've covered this last fortnight. Oh, there she goes.
A group that unfairly dominated almost every sector of Nigerian society, which led to so many Igbos.
That is what? Developed?
I mean, for instance, we had Professor Ojukwu, who was the Chancellor of the University of Lagos. He lost his job then. Professor Kenneth Onwokadike, the Chancellor of the University of Ibadan, lost his job. So many of them. I mean, Nigeria cannot work. Nigeria can never work.
Okay.
On the basis that so Nigeria cannot work on the basis. Me, I've not spoken today. I just you. Great. You actually interest me. Nigeria cannot work on what basis? What's your basis?
Because everybody hates Igbo people.
I'm sorry, Grace. My name is Nkiru. I'm Igbo, and I think people mind it. Not being funny. I'm not trying to insult you, but I have to say what I have to say because I'm trying to swallow spit. It's not agreeing to go down. But What you're saying is basically calling for an outcry or an outright war on people that are not Igbos. And I think that's wrong. And that's why Nigeria will never grow, because people like you carry things like that in your mind. I'm pushing it forward for people that are...
Yes, the more reason why we should...
I call it ignorant. I'm sorry, it's not acceptable. It's not right. Sorry, I've not spoken since. I've been keeping quiet listening to you. I've been trying to catch your words because you've been very faint. But it's what you're preaching is wrong, Grace.
I think so too.
The war happened.
I think so.
The war happened, yeah. It happened. There were casualties. There were people that suffered for the war. It happened. It's happened. It's gone. Why can't we just move on? Why? Igbos are making it out there like no man's business. We're making money everywhere. Anywhere we put ground, we put leg, we make it. So why can't we just move on? The people that are complaining,
the Igbos in
the people that are complaining are the ones that are not trying to do anything in their lives, are just sitting down at home complaining. They're not going out there to look for work. Now they're blaming Hausa people or blaming Yoruba people for their misdemeanors. They are the ones that are messing up. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Kilo Day? No.
You guys have that pro-Biafrans are jobless and they don't have anything to do. They sit at home, they complain.
No one is saying they're jobless, but it's if you look at it, I'm sorry, I've seen posts on Facebook. I've actually come off Facebook because I don't want to be getting annoyed. I deactivated Facebook. But if you go on Facebook and see on Facebook, sometimes, or if I'm unfortunate for me, I can click on and see someone's Instagram page. All they're doing, sitting in their parlor complaining. I've seen where a group of men, Igbo men, was sitting gathered in their living room, drinking beer, and now Sibu, now complain like Igbo. I mean, come on.
I hope we are seeing the spectrum I talked about. That is why I like being aware of my resource person.
We are being sentimental and emotional here. Let's face the fact the way it is. Nigeria can never work because
you know this idea.
You know what? I'm not.
Nigeria is working.
All the Igbo victims that were kicked out of West.
Nigeria will work if we all get together as one, unified, and stand firm. Nigeria will work.
I'm going to mute every. Okay, let me just start muting one by one. In fact, I'm not even talking again. I'm not begging anybody.
Mute me, please.
Ikiru wants me to.
Why did you come and spoil my channel?
Ikiru wants you to mute me by herself, all by herself. So I'm not going to have a show after a show. Unfortunately, we couldn't hear Grace earlier on. If we could, we might have perhaps gotten her point of view and actually been able to discuss it, because it's not enough to just say, you are just wrong. We have to talk about these things. Well, you are just right. We have to talk about these things. We have to get to the bottom of why people feel the way that they do. And if there is any learning or any education to be had, then this is the platform to do it. Unfortunately, we are completely out of time, and I refuse to have Biafra 3 because we could have Biafra 12, and this is not the Fast and the Furious. We're not going to have 7 episodes of this thing. We could, and we would still be here. We would still have a situation where pro-Biafrans are going to feel the way that they do. The other end of the spectrum, which is completely anti-Biafra, and then of course the restructuring part of the spectrum as well. At this point, I would like to say thank you so much to all of the panelists, everybody who called in. Special thank you to Grace, who just kept hanging up, kept coming back in, kept hanging up, kept coming back in as many times as she needed to, just to try to be heard. Unfortunately, we couldn't always hear you, but thank you so much for trying. To Obinna, to Cheta. In fact, I'm coming to pay school fees because I'm starting this school all over again. Clearly, I didn't get my father's money's worth the first time around. Buki, always a delight, always a pleasure. I will be speaking with you after the show. We have an ongoing discussion, right? Dolapo, thank you. Ekerete, the pleasure is always mine. Obinna, Daluso. So thank you all, everyone. Thank you for all of your contributions. Thank you for all of your comments. Facebook, I see you. Thank you so much. On this note, I say a big good night. Thank you for joining us. Have a fantastic... Oh, no, don't good night. Come back. Bia. Next week, 28th of June, we're going to be discussing feminism. Not just feminism necessarily, but Nigerian feminism. and how it is that we do things.
And the Father's Day.
And Father's Day and all of this, we're going to be discussing.
And Father's Day, where they congratulate only single, they congratulate single mothers. That's
I didn't know you.
They have 7 days.
I didn't know that you two you were there. So we're going to be discussing. So once again, in the bid in a bid for balanced debate, we've got some traditionalists who are going to be coming on board to discuss how they feel about feminism, or especially feminism as it plays out in Nigeria. And of course, we have some feminists or progressives who are also going to be on board. That will be on Wednesday, same time, 8 to 10 p.m. West African time. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a fantastic night. Good night, everyone. Bye.
Good night. Good night.
Bye.
Thank you.